that I was on course with, 5 kids, 5 teenagers committed suicide, all friends.
Yeah, and this is one of their fears, and we've had pockets of this in the UK, that there's so-called suicide contagion, that even being trans is contagion. There's such, I don't think there's contagion, but there is social connectedness. They're all watching and connected to the same social media streams, the same inputs coming into them that are away from their parents, that are away from the world, that are virtual. So their responses are going to be gathered around that. That's what they're hearing. That's what they're seeing. There's this immediacy from everything that is picked from social media, both the pressures and the responses. There's this kind of, I think being trans for a lot of young people carries with it an existential angst that is similar to being a climate change activist, which I absolutely am one of. But at the same time, yes, the world is going to die if we don't sort it out, but it ain't going to die tomorrow. But there's this aspect amongst younger people that if I don't transition yesterday, I will die tomorrow.
Yes, and I
And
won't change
everything
my
is this
status.
immediate, and it feels like, and any attack upon that process, any challenge to that process feels like a personal attack. And I think the personal thing is really important. Everything that I do in my work, whether it's kind of methodology stuff at the Human Library, whether it's TV stuff, whether it's speeches, it's at the end of the day, I've navigated my own life to realize that if we do not get back to treating people as, well, actually, that really odd thing called people, rather than vehicles of hate or debate or activism or anger or everything else like that, if we cannot de-stereotype both our enemies, how do we expect how do we expect our enemies to de-stereotype us? How do we get at the people that attack or hate or critique us or just challenge us, because we can't even stand a challenge these days? How do we humanize them when we are in a fight to be humanized ourselves? You can compare this to any other kind of culture war battle at the moment. It doesn't have to be just trans, it can be immigration. The language we use around immigration, swarm, cockroaches, feral humans, the language used of Gaza and Israel at the moment. You can pick any particular war, real war, culture war, fake war, whatever you want to call it, is the way we battle it out is you homogenize and you dehumanize the other side. Then you cease to see them as human. Then you lose your battle before you start because you haven't allowed any space for the other side to even step away from their slogans, and you won't step away from yours. And all you're willing to do is throw things at each other, and the drawbridge is up. But this whole personal thing is incredibly important. We've got to refine the individual and the personal in every coherent group. No two trans people are the same. No two parents are the same. No two gender critical people are the same. No two media commentators are the same. We have to try and find the individuality in any person to do two things. One, yes, the personal remains political. Living your life is a political act. Self-care is a political act. And recognizing that being yourself, being authentic, being real, being vulnerable is a political act. But at the same time, when your space in this world, you find that actually all of the other people in the world are wanting to live their personal lives, and it doesn't exactly meet your version of what you want to be, because you're not giving them the freedom to be them. You want your freedom to be you, but actually you haven't got enough kind of empathic and also human rights space to give them the space to be them, and you expect them to do all the changes for you to accommodate you. When we do that, we can't see the personal in them, and then we see any kind of challenge to our personal space as a personal attack, any response to who we are as a personal attack, rather than an expression of another person trying to find their personal space in the world and feeling actually under attack by your existence in some way. And I loved what Don Miguel Ruiz wrote in the Four Spiritual Laws about basically don't take stuff personally. Because what someone says stuff about them, not about you. And that's a good way to help you navigate space of seeing that actually they're not hating on me, they're actually hating on themselves by that expression. But actually, if I want them to love themselves better and in turn then love me better, I actually have to love me better so I can love them better, if that makes any sense. And if you can create that kind of space, you get to the beginning of the possibility of coexistence in society. At the moment, all of the culture wars, all of the the feelings of attack on trans people, and don't get me wrong, there are. Um, they're not. No one is kind of fighting in this space for coexistence. They're fighting to conquer, and
Mm,
both sides are fighting to conquer.
mm,
And even if you're conquering from a position of having felt like you were the one first attacked, each one can go back in history and try and find a different starting point. You can just take Israel and Palestine. Hey, we were here first. No, we were here. We're 75 years ago, we were here. But yeah, but 2000 years, we were there. You can find a different origin point. LGBT wars and origin points, gender in history stuff. You don't go back to origin points. You're not going to solve it by finding causes anymore. You're going to solve it by finding coexistence. And what does a two-state solution look like for gender criticals and trans people, if you want to call it like that? What does a world look like where we can actually recognize sex and gender rather than think that one has to conquer the other? you
mm,
know Even parenting, it's not about winning parent or child. It's about finding a way to be a family, finding a way to navigate a space where you respect each other's opinions, and then you come to compromises that where you live by them. Having a teenager is full of navigation and negotiation and compromise. you know Bedtimes, behaviors, freedoms, non-freedoms. So I think we need to do this kind of humanization and personalization to find the individual and actually see if we can empathize into how they might be feeling. And one way to do that is to obviously ask them. But listening to someone's feelings doesn't mean absolutely acknowledging or agreeing with those feelings, but it means hearing them, because if they feel them, they're going through them, and we create our kind of our mental worlds out of our feelings. We're driven by them. We're feeling centered animals, and instinct based, and our instincts are driven off of everything from chemicals to hard wiring, but feelings just run riot through that.